Hey, welcome back. So in this tutorial, we're going to create our first project, and then I'm going to show you kind of the interface in Unreal Engine. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about Fab and making sure that it is integrated into your Epic Games into Unreal Engine. The plugin should automatically be there for 5.6, but again, we'll check it out. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Right here, I have Epic Games open. So open up your Epic's game launcher, and then we're going to go to library. And then right in here, you should have your engine version already installed. Okay. So right here, there's a couple different ways to get into Unreal Engine. Okay. When we're starting a new project, we can launch it from right here, or we can also launch it from up here. If you hit the down arrow, you can find the version that you want to launch. If you only have one of these installed, you're only going to have one option. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click launch. This may take a few seconds to a few minutes, depending on how fast your processor is and how much memory you have. So I am going to pause, and then we'll come. Okay, so what should have happened is you should have this window pop open. You probably don't have any projects in here. Maybe you do, but you probably don't. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start with a complete fresh project, okay? In here, this is the kind of the launching page. We have recent projects. You can see that these are some of my recent projects. You have a games option with some different templates that are base templates. We also have film and video, some architecture ones, automotive, and simulations. But we're going to concentrate on games. So here on games, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're using blueprints. So right here, okay, this is the project defaults. We're going to use the blank one right here. So select blank. If you want to play with some of these other ones, you can create a project after we go through this and kind of play around. There is a third person kind of a mini game in here on this template, as well as there's one for the first person. So you can kind of download. In fact, each one of these has a little template that kind of starts. So they might be kind of fun to download and create a project and just kind of explore them a little bit outside of this tutorial. But we're going to start with blank. We're going to make sure that we have blueprint selected, so it should be highlighted. Our target platform is going to be desktop, and we're going to run it at maximum quality. Down here in the bottom, we're going to find the file folder where you want to save it. I already have mine set up in a projects folder called Unreal Engine Projects on my E drive. You may not have an E drive or a D drive. You may only have a C drive. So whatever drive that you can store your project on, or whatever, if you're in a classroom environment, save it on there. Or if you also took my advice from earlier and have a separate hard drive, an SSD drive, you could indicate that that's where you want to create your project here as well. So plug that into the computer, wait for it to come up, and then create a project folder inside of that. All right, so we're going to name this. Okay, this is going to be Rollerball. I'm going to call this 2025. But I already have one named that, so you see that it already exists down here, right? So I'm going to put on the end of mine tut for tutorial, okay? You can either do that if you want or just stop at Rollerball 2025. Now, some naming convention things to remember. You cannot start this off with a number, okay? It doesn't like numbers. You cannot start it off with a special character. It has to be an alpha character, so either a capital or a lowercase alpha character in order to do this. You also can only name it so long. If you have too many characters in the title, it doesn't like that either. All right, so we're going to go ahead and create it. It's going to disappear, and what should happen is your Unreal Engine should pop up here. And it's going to compile shaders. So this could take a few minutes, again, depending on how fast your computer is, how much memory, how your processor is, your graphics card, all those things that we talked about in the last tutorial video for your specifications of your computer. And this is where, again, if you have a computer that meets minimum requirements or somewhere around the recommended requirements, that's where you need to be patient. Just wait for things to happen. It'll eventually get caught up, and it will open. And then it should pop up. Okay, so now we have our world. It opened up. Here it is. And what we have is the default layout for the windows, right? So what we can see is that over here is our outliner, and underneath that is our details panel. Here in the middle, this is the viewport. This is where our game actually exists. Everything that is here in the outliner is represented by what is here in the world. So if I click on directional lighting, for example, there it is right there, okay? I like to kind of change my window up a little bit. You can leave it this way if you want, but I like to grab my outliner and drag it over and kind of park it over here. Then I hover over this corner section here and do that. That way, as I start to add more and more things to my world, I can kind of see them and find them a little bit better here. You can search it up in here as well to find stuff. Over here in the details panel, this gives us the information about what it is that's down there at the bottom. In this case, the directional lighting is located here. But what I want to do is I want to kind of get down onto the ground, and then we can talk about kind of the controls of how to move around and stuff. And it'll be a little bit more apparent that we're moving because right now we're so far out and the camera is set at it's one of the slower levels, because when we're moving around the game, level 1, which is the camera right here, works just fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on player start, put my mouse back in the viewport here, and hit F on my keyboard. And that's going to frame me right into where our player start position is, right? So now what I'm doing is if I hold my right mouse button down, I can kind of pan around and look around, but I'm staying in place. I can just it's like I'm standing there and just kind of looking around me. Okay, I can look up and down and around. With my left mouse button, if I hold just the left mouse button down, I can look left and right. And if I push the mouse forward, I move forward, and I pull it back, I move backwards. So I can kind of move around like that. So that's a couple ways to be able to just kind of move around in the scene. This works really well, the left mouse button, for when you're up close and you're trying to get, slowly move into something, right? All right, but if I hold down the W key and I hold my left mouse button down, I kind of fly around. But the problem with that is that I only move in the direction that I'm looking at on my computer, right? So that makes it a little bit more difficult. Oh, also, if you hold the left mouse button and the right mouse button down, you can pan around like this, okay? Left mouse button and right mouse button held together at the same time, do this. Middle mouse button, if you have a roller, you roll in and out just like this. Now, back to the WASD keys. So the WASD keys, if I hold down my left mouse button and hold down the W key, I fly forward, right? S, I fly backwards. D to the right. A to the left. Q down. And E up. Okay, just like you would on your game controls if you're playing a video game. But you're kind of stuck. You can't really fly. You're moving in whatever direction your camera happens to be looking at. If you hold down the right mouse button and do that, you can fly around. So I can fly around with my W key just like this. Okay, and I can be like Superman, kind of fly around. Okay, so that's how you can kind of move around in the world. Now, to manipulate things in the world, so if I select the, notice I clicked on the landscape. The landscape is made up of a bunch of little pieces. We're going to put that back. So if I select the player start, the little gizmo shows up here. So I have my little gizmo, my Z is up, okay, and then my X and Y, okay, and you can see X is red, Y is green. There are my horizontal planes here, okay, and then also if I hover over it, you can see I can select by plane as well. So Z, if I grab it, I can move it up, okay, forward, backwards, okay. Now, on the keyboard, if we hit W, if I click on this and I click W, we're already in the move. W is move. E is rotate. So I can rotate it just like that, okay? And R, I can scale it, okay? Whoops, that was the wrong thing. I'm actually selecting the little arrow there. There we go. All right, if I hit Control Z a few times, it'll put everything back the way it's supposed to be. All right, so Control Z to undo. All right, so if you can't remember W, E, R, up here are where your little gizmo buttons are. So this would be to select, so the gizmo goes away. Okay, notice it went away. If I want to move, I can select the move key. This is the rotate, and this is the scale. If you hover over it, you'll see that it says the different letters, W, E, and R. And then this would be Q to select objects, but yeah, okay. You can also hit, yeah, actually it's Q, not escape. Also, here we can, this is local and world coordinates, so we can select local or world coordinates. For this particular object, it won't really matter, okay, because it's local. All right, so then we can do, we can set snapping, so the way things snap. This is a grid snapping, so we can toggle on to whether things, actually this is, yeah, grid snapping for movement. So I can turn it on, I can turn it off, but if you notice, when I hit move, it snaps, right? So if I were to change it from 10 units to like 100 units, I select it, I really have to move it to get it to snap. You can also turn this off so that you can just do a fine-tuned little movement, right? And you can also change it to 1 so it only moves at one, snaps at one sizes and nothing in between. Same for rotation. Again, we can snap at 10 degrees, all these different choices here, and then we can also turn it off by turning the blue off. And then we have scale. Scale does the same thing, okay? All the way over here on the right-hand side, we're looking at the world in the perspective view, okay? But if you wanted to be able to look at it from a different view, you can do the top view, okay? And then it automatically pops into the wire view. But if we wanted to look at it in the lit view, we can select this here and go back to lit. So we're looking at it in the exact same view as we did when we were looking at it in the perspective view. We'll come back to this in a second. All right. So again, there's bottom, left, right, kind of get the idea for all of those. Different types of cameras, we'll get into those later. And some of these other things we will get into as well later as well. High resolution screenshot. Now we won't talk about that yet. We'll talk about it later when it comes time to start thinking about grabbing some images off our game. Okay, so back on this one that says lit right now, we can choose different ways to look at our world. And actually, let's jump back to perspective. And I can do unlit. So unlit allows us to see everything. We don't have to depend on a lighting source to be able to see it in the world. So if we were in a dark world right now, and let's make it dark. So I'm going to go to lit. I'm going to go to my directional lighting, and I'm going to turn my intensity down. So over here in the details, I'm going to turn this down to 0. So everything goes dark on me. See, I can't see the world. So here for lit, if I go to unlit, now I can see everything, okay? That's what that will allow us to do. So when you're working and trying to put together your world and model things together and the room is dark, or the space that you're working is dark, or the game level is supposed to be kind of dark, whatever the reason is, and you can't see it, you can go in here, you can change it from lit to unlit so you can see that, okay? There's also a wireframe, so you can see how the wires are all connected, all of the vertices, the triangles, all the modeling pieces are assembled. A bunch of other things for visibility that are in here. I'm not going to go through everything right now because it'll make this video very long. So those are the major ones that I use up front, but we will talk about some of these other ones later on. Okay, so we can go back to lit. We can go back to my lighting here, and this was set at 6. I'm going to set it back at 6, and there you can see the sun comes back. All right, so the next thing over is things that are being seen in the world. So mostly everything here is checked, and then we also can turn things on or off down here with these different choices down here as well. But as you can see, most everything is checked and turned on that are usually used for default. Okay. One of the things that we may get into a little bit is when we bring in models, sometimes the collision is messed up on the model. We don't know that until we throw it in here, unless we look first. And then, so one of the things I like to do sometimes is I can turn this collision on, right? And then what it does is it shows you what the collision looks like for that object. You can see these purple triangles that showed up everywhere, so we can tell if it's right or not. Okay, sometimes you have a model that is like this little tiny thing, but the collision takes up the almost entire game area, and it makes it so you can't play the game. So we'll fix that type of stuff. All right, we'll turn that off. That's one of the things I use a lot as well. This here. So we're not going to get... Yeah, actually, this is something I do want to talk about. If you remember when I was talking about specifications for your game and your computer, for being able to use Unreal Engine and the specs that are on your computer to be able to run it. If you click here on this little clock, right here at viewport scalability, we can change the scalability group for the way our world looks, right? And right now I have everything set on epic. You can also set it on automatic so that it automatically tests your system and gives you the highest level that you can for what you're trying to do. And if it starts to bog down, it'll readjust your settings here. But for example, if I went to cinematic, it's going to change the way the world looks just a little bit. I could also go to low, and you can see some of the detail goes away, especially the far distance details. Okay. So these are some of the things we can do. And then we get this little thing that says the scalability can be turned up or turned down. So I'm going to go back to Epic. That seems to be fine for working with what I'm doing. Okay. And you can also change your material quality level to help reduce the drag on your system as well if you need to, and screen percentages. All right, the next one over is our tools. Let's see. We're not going to use much of this unless you just don't like the way the mouse is set up. You want to change the way the orbiting is and some of those things. You can play around with that. Over here, we can set up our panels for our viewport. So right now we have just one big, large viewport. But we could make it so that we have two. So we could see a wireframe and we can see the world this way as well. And then go back to one. All right. Sure. Oh, yeah. So that's what it is. Okay. So that is kind of the biggest portion of moving around and kind of operating inside of Unreal Engine. As we get going, there'll be more things that come up, and I will walk you through movement and things like that, things that we need to do. Over here on the left-hand side, you see that this tab is untitled, so we don't have a name for this level yet. We're going to use this level in our game, so I'm going to go ahead and give this a name right now. So I'm going to go and do a file, and I'm going to save current level as, and inside here, I haven't actually talked about the content folder yet, so let me hit cancel real quick. Let's talk about content folder. Down here on the bottom, we'll see content drawer. You may or may not have your output log tab down here, and then there's also a command function down there, right? We're not going to mess with this command stuff at the moment. We'll talk about output logs as those come up. There's console commands down here. So we're going to talk about this one right here, a content drawer. So here are all the folders that store the information or our assets that we're going to use in our game. So anytime we add something into here, it is going to be stored down here, okay? And the content is the one that we normally work in, all right? You may not have an engine one right now or a temp content. And the reason is because over here on the right-hand side with this open, if you click on this little bar right here, I have engine content turned on. So you can do that. I would recommend turning that on, okay? And that'll give you access to some other things that are available inside of the engine that we were going to use at a later date. So again, over here, hit the little settings button, put the check mark for engine content, and it should pop in with engine right here. So we're going to click back here on this content folder. You see that it's empty. There's no arrow next to it showing that there's anything in it. We're going to change that real quick. We're going to right click in here. We're going to get a new folder, and we're going to call this folder levels. You can also call it maps because that's what we're going to do. We're going to put maps together or levels. All right. Now with it selected, I'm going to right click on it. We can go here to set color, and we can change the color of this map or this folder so we can keep track of it. I am going to make this green because I always think of levels as being green like the world for some reason. And I'm going to say OK. And now I have a green folder that says levels. Okay. I'm going to double click on that. And what I'm going to do is go up here to File. I'm going to save current level as. I'm going to select my levels folder, and I'm going to give this a new name. This is going to be our sandbox, okay? And the sandbox is kind of like a play area. Okay, we're going to play around, and we're going to learn about Unreal Engine inside of our sandbox. I'm going to hit save. And now we have our sandbox. All right, and this should change the name up here to Untitled to Sandbox. Now, the next thing we need to do is with our tabs up here, we're going to go to the one called Window, okay? And, nope, I'm sorry. We're going to go to the one next to that. So let me walk through these real quick. This is file. Again, we can open and create new levels right here. We're going to end up doing some new levels in the future. We can save everything here. We can import and export things and create new projects. All those things that you can normally do in file. We can also quit from here. Edit. Edit gives us access to things like cut, copy, paste, duplicate, undo, redo, those type of things. Editor preferences. We can go into our editor and set our preferences. There's also project settings, and there are plugins. Not sure if we're going to get into either one of those, but we are definitely going to be using our project settings. So I'm going to click on project settings, and we're going to go to maps and modes right up here at the top where it says project maps and modes. Okay. Right now it's set to a default open world. Okay. We hit the down arrow and we scroll down a little bit. We'll see that our sandbox is right here. We just created this level. Okay. And we're going to do that for both of these. The reason why we're doing this is so that every time you open your project, it's instead of going to the open world default project, it's going to go to your map level instead. It's actually going to go to the one that we just created, the sandbox one. And since we're going to be working in it, it's kind of convenient for it to just open to it so that we can get to it right away. Now, as we move along, we start creating the game, we may not want sandbox to be our default one, and we can change it just the same way we just changed it right now. Okay? There is no save for this. We don't have to worry about saving it. We're going to go ahead and just close it. Okay, and now the next time we open Unreal Engine project, it will open to this level. Okay, let's do something. Let's talk about some other stuff up here real quick. So under Windows, we also have some other things that we're going to get into in the future. Environment light mixer is really useful, but we'll talk about that when it actually matters. World settings we'll talk about when we get things set up. All right, so down here we have this Get Content, Fab, and Quixel Bridge. Hopefully yours has Fab in it, okay? If it does not, please drop me a note in the comments down there and we'll figure that out. But after 5.3 and 5.4, so basically with Unreal Engine 5.5 and above, Fab should automatically be part of the content, right? So if I click on Fab, it should open up this tab and it should take me to my Fab content here, my library. Well, actually all products, not to my library specifically, but it's going to take me to Fab. You may have to sign in. So you may have to click over here on the little person, and then you may have to sign in to it so that you can get access to your actual library. Again, at this point, you may want to go in and kind of peruse through Fab, and that would be on fab.com to be able to find some stuff, right? Right now, this is the marketplace. You can also do it from here as well. But I found that doing it on fab.com is a little bit easier, adding it to my library, and then your actual library is this little, I guess it's supposed to be a stack of books, but I don't know. It looks like paper to me. If you click on that, then your stuff will pop in here. And see, I did take advantage of those 3 free ones. You should probably too. Maybe look around for some other free stuff too. We are going to get this. We're going to get the Canon, and we're also going to get this right here. So go find them and add them in. We'll use them later, but I will show you later, and then we'll drop them into the when we're actually using them. I will show you where they are if you can't find them. All right, so inside of Sandbox, back to Window, we got Fab opened. We talked about load layout, default editor if you ever get stuff lost. We can also save if you customize it and you want to have it saved as a layout for you. Save it, and you can give it a name. That way, instead of going to load layout, default, you can go ahead and go to your actual layout that you have customized. We'll get to all this other stuff later, most of it. Tools, we're going to use some stuff in tools, but we'll go over that when we do. Build, we'll get into that when we need to. But this has to do with building out our levels and our lighting, geometry, and things like that. Select, we'll use some other buttons to get to some of this stuff. Actor, we're not really doing that right now. Okay, and then help. If you go in here, this is where your documentation home is. It should take you to Unreal Engine for references. This F1 should do the same thing. Learning library. There's a bunch of stuff in here for help that'll help you. And of course, there's unrealengine.com right there. All right, I think we've taken a quick peruse around. Again, save. We can open projects from here. The selection mode. Right now, we're in the selection mode, which allows us to work in the world. In the future, we may do a landscape. So we'll talk about landscape and how to create one. we're not going to get too much else into this. We are going to use the modeling one when we make a couple things, custom things inside of Unreal Engine. So we will get to that as well. This is down, and this gets us to Fab, our content browsers, Bridge. And then we can add in basic things. So if I wanted to just add, for example, a shape like a cube, I can click on it and drag it and bring it into the world. Okay. What else? Yeah, so that is the biggest thing I use this for. There are all kinds of stuff in here, and we'll get into it. And then the last thing I drug in is going to show up down here at the bottom. These are level blueprints, or this is the level stuff that we can get into. We may get into this in the future, may not. We're not going to use sequencer this time around. All right, so now here in the middle, all right, our platform, we're going to stick with what we're on right now. I'm not going to worry about some of this stuff. Okay, so right here in the middle, okay. If you hit this play button, I'm sure some of you have seen it, maybe have already hit it. It actually is going to bring us into the game, and WASD will move us around, okay? And then Q will take us down, E will take us up. Notice if I go all the way down, I hit the ground and stop. I can fly towards this cube I just threw in there, it stops me. So, and I can look around, okay? It's kind of like playing the game, but you don't really have a character, you can't see anything. It's almost like a first person, but there's no arms or legs or anything, so... All right, now with it in this mode, hit F8 on your keyboard. So your function 8, which is at the top of your keyboard. You may also have to hold the function button for depending on your computer. But if you hit F8, it'll eject you out of your player, so that you can kind of look around. And when we do that, you notice now there's this sphere. This is your player, little round sphere. This is who you were when you were just hitting the play button. And we can see that in this scene right here. All right, and then what this does is this allows us to take a look around the game while the game is actually running. So if we had some animations happening and we had fire, other things, cannon shooting or whatever, those things would be occurring just as if we were playing the game, but you can eject out of yourself as a player, and now you can kind of move around and see how things are working and see how they look. It's kind of useful, really useful. For when you're working on your game and seeing how it looks from a third perspective instead of being stuck in your player's perspective. Okay. Again, from here we can hit F8 again. So if we click on ourselves and hit F8, we'll go back into the player. Two ways to quit this. You can hit escape to end the game. So escape, or you can hit the stop button right up here. If you're in your player though, so in order to get into player mode, I forgot to mention this, you have to click into the viewport. Otherwise, you have your mouse and you're not able to do anything else. But if you are in the player mode, you can't get the F8 or the escape button to work. You can hit F8 and then come up here and hit the stop button. Okay. All right, so that is the biggest thing about Unreal Engine. I got you started on it. Couple little things down here on the right-hand side. You'll see that I have something unsaved in my scene. If I click on that, it'll tell me what it is. I put that cube in the world and I didn't save it. So if I hit save selected, that goes away. You can also go up here to file, save all. I like using the save all button because it saves everything. But like a lot of things, Unreal Engine is a little finicky. Sometimes it doesn't save everything. And you might need to go through the individual tabs and save stuff. Up here is the name of our project. If you hover over it, it tells you the version of the engine and some other information about it. Yeah, and then we're not getting into revision control this time around and some of these other things either. So, all right, so let me jump back in here real quick. So hopefully that gets you a little bit started, piques your curiosity, and I show you basically how to move around inside of Unreal Engine, and we created our first project. So now, go ahead, kind of explore a little bit, play with some of the different things, drag some cubes and some spheres, and just kind of explore a little bit. Next time, we're going to get into making our character, which will be the Rollerball. Again, if you liked what you saw, please like the video. Please subscribe to my channel so that any future videos that come out, you'll be notified and you can jump back into that tutorial right away. All right, thanks again, and I will see you next time.